Okay, we're recording.
Awesome. Sick, man. Well, yeah, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I
Of
I
course.
uh I love your online course, your the Ableton course.
Oh, cool. You check that out. Oh,
Yeah. I joined like very early on. I love learning new tricks. I love YouTube. I love your channel. I mean, I'm so obsessed with learning new Ableton tricks and music theory stuff from YouTube. It's so crazy how much you can learn. And yeah, I've learned a lot of good stuff recently online.
yeah, it's insane these days. I mean, people think you need to have all the gear and like go to school and whatnot to like, be a good producer or whatever. But it's literally you can just have like a laptop and a set of headphones and YouTube access to the internet
That's
connection,
it.
basically. And yeah, you can get what I call a YouTube degree these days. Which is like, I mean, I've got friends, right, who have never gone to university or anything, and they just like picked up, a copy of like Touch Designer or something, which is like, a
Yeah.
visual program or like a node based program for doing like, usually show related stuff, like taking certain inputs and sending it somewhere and whatnot. It's like Max MSP or whatever, but for visuals, I guess.
You can do crazy stuff with touch.
Yeah, and I've got multiple friends at this point who have just like picked touch up and then like started watching shit on YouTube, and now they're like working for giant companies, like
Yeah.
running huge shows.
Yes. You can learn so much at YouTube University. And also I find it to be really useful because um I'll learn tricks in from places where I wouldn't normally have found them, right? Where like there's this guy that I follow, I don't remember his name, but he's like a jazz music instructor, and just the way that he thinks and talks about scales like is totally blowing my mind.
Is it Adam Neely?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I love that guy. He's awesome. I've had him on
Yeah.
the podcast too, actually.
Oh, okay, cool. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's a super educated guy. So he actually got a degree. I think he went to Berkeley,
Okay.
and then but yeah, I mean the way that he yeah puts information out on his channel is crazy. He's just yeah, amazing bass player and just like a really good thinker. I asked him actually like how he makes his videos. Is it just like stuff that he knows that he's sharing, or is it um or does he go like, oh, I want to learn more about X and then dive down the rabbit hole on that and then share his findings kind of? And he said it's like 100% the latter. Like which is like kind of the sickest job ever, right? Like he's turned his curiosity of things into a job as a YouTuber. So he just is like, oh, I want to learn more about how I don't know this 432 hertz thing works or something, and then just spends
Right.
like he can justify spending like 2 or 3 weeks just looking into nothing but that because it's like a career for him at this point.
Oh, that's so fun. That I see the drive to want to do something like that, and I've thought about it, of doing something very similar on my own, and then I just keep coming back around to making music. But I'm so glad that people do that because we all benefit, and the quality has gotten so good. The fascinating thing for me is people who do track breakdowns and how good people have gotten at that. Like you can search any popular producer and be like, "Oh, breakdown of how this works." And even it's what's I'm more impressed with the time that people spend and the accuracy um of the track breakdowns and the way that they can pick apart, because it was like, wow, this actually sounds a lot like the track. It's really fascinating to me, that kind of like the reverse engineering process, because I do that a lot on my own, and I always have loved studying, especially around like more sound design, mixing stuff, and high level creative techniques, or like arrangement, listening to some other track, and especially if it's something totally unrelated, studying that, picking it apart, throwing it in Ableton, and like figuring out how it works. And the fact that people have made that into a whole industry, I think, is super useful and fun.
Yeah, totally. Have you seen that YouTube channel Genius? That's like one of the ones where they get a lot of those popular producers on, like Ludwig Göransson or whatever, the guy who made that song with Childish Gambino, Red, whatever it's called. Like it's basically a bunch of pop songs and
Okay, no, I don't
pop
think I've seen
producers.
that one.
Yeah, I think it's put together by Vice, maybe it might be like,
Okay.
or maybe I don't know. I'm thinking of maybe Earworm or something. But yeah, it is crazy that these days. I remember still there was a time in the music industry where all producers would be like, "No, these tricks are mine. You can't like see
Yes.
these tricks because otherwise, if you have these tricks, then what am I?" You know, like.
Yeah. That those days are over. And I
Mhm.
think people that were really masterful and masters of their craft knew that was bullshit early on. I had a couple experiences, really lucky run-ins with mentors early on that made me always want to share. Um, I I ran into Dave Tipper very early on in my whole process and got to hang out with him, and he was just so generous with his knowledge. He gave me and a group of friends, we were all hanging out in Hawaii playing shows in like early Glitch Mob days, and he gave us a whole folder of reactor patches that he'd been collecting and building, and I was like, thank you. Um, and there's no hoarding of this information because obviously he's Tipper. Like he's so good at what he does that giving these kids reactor patches is not going to take anything away from him. And I think it's the switch from thinking of everything as a zero sum game to like, well, you can improve and you can improve and I can improve and we can all get better and share. And that is something. I mean, people, including myself, bitch and moan about the internet a lot and all of the negative things that it has done. But I think what you said is so right on. It has really done a lot for the democratization of production skills and knowledge and information.
Yeah, I think so too. I think like let's say hypothetically you just took production skills off the table completely and we all just had like, I don't know, some sort of receiver in our head that could just like, you know, transmit to a computer and we could just think whatever music was in our head to exist, right? Therefore like any finagling of software is just like who gives a shit? It doesn't, like, it's irrelevant now, right? Well then it would just come down to just who, you know, could think of the coolest music basically. And I
Right.
think that basically is like where music production is headed. Not to like this chip area, but at least to an area where nobody is, you know, held back by a lack of knowledge. You know, you're only held back by how lazy you are really at this
Right. Or
point.
like imagination.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like at this point, if you have the drive to go on YouTube and learn everything you can there and read a bunch of shit on the internet and learn everything you can there, then really it puts you on the same playing field as any producer, and you should just only be held back at that point by your imagination of what you can envision music being.
Yeah, exactly. I remember. I mean, now it's so funny. Like when Glitch Mob first started, and when we were making these really like hyper glitchy edits to music, where it was all done by hand, where we were writing in Cubase or like early Ableton, and now there's plugins to do this. But at the time, it was really time consuming to like take a song, chop it up. But I remember when Deboo Glitch first came out, there was just like, you know, some of the first glitch plugins where I was like, oh my god, you just turn it on and it does this thing that we had been doing, but everything is going that way. And I don't know. I mean, I think it's the same thing. I talked to photographer friends about this, where there's different schools of thought, where it's like there are some photographers that think that Instagram is a bad thing and it really took away from the mastery of photography, and there are people that feel that it's really allowed people to tap into what it feels like to be a photographer. And I'm also more of the latter school of thought across everything. Like, you know, at the same time, there is something to mastery of doing something every day and getting better at it and putting in the 10, 20, 30,000 hours till you really know something. I mean, I don't think that this is a replacement for really knowing your tools, but I think anything that is going to make these tools less expensive and easier to use, so it allows more and more people to do this, because it's like doing glitch edits in Cubase, like that would take anyone a long time to learn if you have no idea. But now you can get, there's all sorts of amazing iPhone apps that you can just like Andrew's new flip sampler app. Like you can just open it up. Like my mom could make a song in an hour if I showed her, and I think that is really cool. All of that stuff is built in though, so there's not this technical hill that you have to climb to really like have the experience of making music.
Right, exactly. So it's not like I was sort of saying before, it's not like now you only get to hear the music available to you by the people who had access to the knowledge. It's like now we almost have access to the music that anybody can make if they want to,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool. It's like, well, I wonder what, yeah, your mum's music sounds like. It's like, hey mum, here's a thing, like do whatever.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we know like what kind of a producer your mum is. It's like that's a pretty cool thing.
It is, yeah. I mean, and in the same way, I don't know about you, but I didn't come from like classical music training. I didn't even take piano lessons growing up. I didn't really play in bands. Like I got Fruity Loops, and that was my entry point into all of this. So I'm a complete 100% product. Everything I do is a product of people who've been creating these tools. I wouldn't be making music if it wasn't for that, probably. I remember taking piano lessons, and it was just boring to me as a kid. I just didn't really connect, and I tried to get out of doing anything musical in school until I found Fruity Loops and drum and bass and an Aphex Twin, and I was like, oh, I want to do this. This is way more fun because I could just tinker around with it. So I think it's like it's the same sort of thing where how people who were recording albums in the 90s or and certainly before that, you would have to go to some massive studio with a big Pro Tools rig and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gear, and like you don't need that now. And I think it's a really good thing, and I think people have finally embraced that. Although you know the difference between a really good mix when you hear it, when someone really knows what they're doing and they can make a song sound timeless and full, and you have there's like an ear you get from working so much that you can't really replace with technology. But you shouldn't have to basically be a computer nerd like us to have the fun of making this stuff.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think the same with Instagram, right? It's now it's accessible to everybody. Uh, but I mean, I also ask myself, like, somebody like me who doesn't know a lot about photography, could I really tell the difference between a really well shot thing that an amateur did on an iPhone versus like, someone who has $10,000 worth of camera gear doing some crazy shit? And probably not, like 9 times out of 10, if I, looked at just two really good pictures that were taken, I'd probably be like, man, they're both sick, like whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I guess it depends on if you have a photographer that um that really knows their gear and has a good eye. I think it's the same thing like a photographer. Someone who has a good eye, who's taken a lot of pictures and knows how to frame something, could do better with an iPhone than someone who's a total amateur but has all of this really expensive gear.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's the same with music though, right? Well, see, the thing is, like, people who are super into photography, like I have one friend who's super into it. He has this like little disc that sits on his screen to like calibrate the colors in his monitor,
Yes.
which is like crazy. And I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
I don't have that. And that is maybe the equivalent of like, owning LCDXs or something like that.
Like both of us.
Yeah, exactly. We're both wearing them. Versus, your average person who might be listening to music on just their phone speaker or like some Bluetooth JBL thing that they just carry around the house or whatever, or
Yeah.
some whatever. And I think at that level, like, there's a lot of people just can't tell the difference between a good and a bad mix, and they're not listening for that anyway. They're more or less just listening for how the music sounds and whatnot.
And how it makes them feel. And I think good and bad it's ultimately subjective. I mean, I think that like when you come from this more old school of mixing where everything has to be a certain way, it's really fascinating with like and if you spend much time on TikTok or the way that people like do these duets where they will like rap into uh earbuds, and then someone else will like add on to it, and there's people that are making hits and having so much fun doing this, and it has really really low quality, and I think it's all a testament to creating with what you have versus like waiting for some other piece of gear. And like you can make amazing music that moves people and feels a certain way without having to spend $10,000 on headphones.
Right. And then I guess there's also the question of if a billion people think that this thing is sick, but you think it's produced like shit, then who's right and who's wrong? You know? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I ask myself that a lot. I'm like, and I mean, the answer I keep coming to obviously is that like music is a subjective experience, and no one's right and no one's wrong. But I mean, there is some sort of like capitalistic value of, you know, a billion people liking a thing versus you not.
Yes, it's true. I mean, I do think that there's a difference between like popular and good. And I think good is also subjective. But just because something's popular, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's timeless or it's going to stand the test of time, right? Because there's some music that is just popular and people like it because it's hitting the algorithm right now. And I think that we live in this world where, you know, as artists, we are constantly presented with all of the way that our music is performing, and even just that whole concept. But it's like when you pull those things apart and you just like music that really stands the test of time, I believe is authentic, and it is something that is honest, and you really love it, and you're saying something, you're exploring a concept that is true to who you are, versus music or any art that is really just a reaction to something that's happening. It's like meme culture. And there's just because something has a bazillion likes on YouTube, I mean, people love that, and maybe it made their day better, but I don't think in 100 years you're going to be listening back to that and being like, remember that one TikTok that was so funny when the cat was like meow, and then they remixed it. And you know, I think it is a different thing.
Yeah, that's kind of true. If I think back to like 10 or maybe even longer, like almost 20 years ago at this point, I'm generally not going like, oh yeah, remember like Trogdor or like, you know,
Yeah.
Banana Phone or anything. I'm like, oh yeah, I was listening to Tool at that time.
Yeah, exactly. I was listening to the Burninator or
Yeah, Dude,
Trogdor or Chocolate Rain. I mean, those are funny. They're cultural moments that define something right now. It's like, wow, someone's gonna make a song about Dogecoin, and it's gonna be hilarious. But I don't know. It's not like you listen to music. This is more of entertainment, right? It's like entertainment on one side, art on the other side, and it's a spectrum. And I think it's good to have a little bit of both, where it's like you're respecting the listener, because if you go so far off into art where it gets so abstract that it doesn't actually relate to anyone, or people don't relate to it, and then, you know, full entertainment, as we're talking about, like meme cats, somewhere in the middle, writing that line is stuff that really sits with people and is incorporated into their lives.
Yeah, I definitely think there's like a solid middle ground where you can like reach a lot of people and also be doing something that's like honest and and relevant to your interests and stuff like that. I mean, I feel like the Glitch Mob is a good example of that, right? Or I guess Tipper is a great example of that. He's, you know, reaching a shitload of people at this point, but he's clearly doing something that he really cares about and is putting a lot of thought into.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, Tipper's a great example of that. I mean, Glitch Mob, like we've been able to, because our first album, Drink the Sea, like when that came out, it was so different from what we had been doing before. We've been able to make a different album each time. And at this point, when that album first came out, a lot of people really hated it, and we got a lot of hate on the internet because it was, you know, we were making more like glitchy dance floor banger remixes, and then we went into Drink the Sea, which was something totally different. But for us, it was really satisfying to just try something totally new and different and throw out all of our tools, technically, and go off on a limb. And then, if anything, the album is it's honest. Like that's where we were at the time. We were going through stuff in life. There was like breakups and all this crazy, just like life drama was happening. So writing the album was more of a way for us to deal with life, and it was like therapeutic process. So in that sense, it was honest. And yeah, I mean, I've always looked up to Mr. Tipper for, he just does his own thing. He always has. I mean, when I first got into DJing, I was like really about jungle and drum and bass and breaks. And at the time he was like making like all of his early Fuel record stuff. We were like much faster 130 BPM breaks, but he always had his own sound. You can always hear a Tipper track, even back to the very first ones. You're like, oh, that's him. And I think the combination of that plus the fact that he was always so kind and so forward with the music, like for him, and even when he DJs even today, like he doesn't say anything. Like he just goes up there and plays music, and it's really all about the sound, and he's such a master of his craft. That's something that's always been really super inspiring to me. And also Richard Devine, same thing, someone who just like he's all about the craft and the exploration of new realms, and he's such a like community oriented mentor, although he wouldn't say that, but he's been very helpful for a lot of people just in the way that he is constantly pushing things.
Dude, yeah, I had Richard on the podcast like last week.
Oh, okay, cool.
And the craziest shit happened. He was like, has he ever told you his story about his heart surgery?
Yes, that was such a crazy moment.
It's an
really
insane
scary.
story, man.
Insane story.
He told me this story, and about like 10 minutes into it, I just started feeling like really queasy. And I was like, oh man, fuck, I feel like real queasy. And then like a couple more minutes into it, I was like, oh man, like I'm feeling bad. And he just like kept telling it. And then I like put my hands down like in my head. I'll just play you the video. Hold on. This is like gonna just do me saying anything is just gonna cheapen this story. Yeah, I can share my screen with you real quick. All right, can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right, one sec. Let me find this video to play you.
Oh man,
Right.
and also he does not pull punches when he's telling crazy stories too.
Oh yeah, so like he's telling me this story. You can see me being like, oh shit, this is like making me queasy. I put my head down, and then check this out. Just bam, passed out.
No way.
But dude, and then check this out. I like slowly wake up.
Wait,
like,
at this point he doesn't know that you actually passed out.
He has
He's
no
just
idea
still
that I'm
talking.
like completely passed out. He's still just telling his story. And then hold on, it gets even crazier. So at this point I'm like just completely out, and then I just bam onto the floor, just full blown pass out.
Shit. Oh, he's laughing. Oh my god, he has no idea.
He has no idea, yeah. And then I was out for like 2 minutes, and then
oh my
god.
Holy shit.
And then I woke up to this, just like a huge pool of blood.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so I like cracked the back of my head open, and then I had to go to hospital, and I ended up with 3 staples in the back of the head.
Oh my god. Richard, he's so funny too, because I can see him he's still just talking throughout that whole thing, because he's got this like crazy horror show mind. And I can see, at what point did he figure out that like you were actually passed out bleeding out on the floor?
So he just like had no idea until I like came back with a towel, and so I got up and I was like, oh man, I'm fucking out of it. Like, what the hell just happened? And he still didn't know. And then I like went and laid on my bed over there for a minute, because I was just like, oh man, I feel so sick. And then I like went into the bathroom and got a towel and like started mopping blood off the back of my head. And then I came back in and I was like, oh shit, this isn't good, man. I gotta go to the hospital. And then that's when he was like, oh fuck, like I had no idea.
Dude, everything okay now? You're all good? No concussion or anything?
There was no concussion. I still have the staples. I get them out in like 2 days or something. But yeah, it was crazy.
That's insane. I know that story so well. I've heard him tell it so many times that I'm not going to go back into it. Don't worry. But I can, wow. I'm glad you're okay.
I mean, it's a great story, but yeah, it's like, I mean, it's not a great story. It's like a horrible story, but I mean, it's, yeah, I don't know. I have like a pretty vivid imagination when it comes to that kind of shit. And whenever somebody starts telling me about some insane medical shit, like I can just imagine it so vividly that it just fucks me up.
Wow. Do you watch like horror movies?
Horror movies are fine, and actually, like any medical crazy shit in movies is also fine because I know it's a movie, right? So like, there's some part of my brain that can convince me like this isn't real. But when it's somebody like Richard, like a peer, telling me this stuff, I'm like, this could happen to me, and
Yeah.
and my brain does a bunch of fucky shit.
Right. You telegraph into that whole experience and you're starting to relive it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was a crazy experience. I mean, it's called vasovagal syncope, and it's basically like some people get it when they see blood, or like some people get it when they like hear a crazy story or something, and they just like pass out at the sight of blood or a story or whatever. So yeah, that's kind of what I
Wow.
suffer from sometimes with that stuff.
So this has happened. Has this happened on a podcast before? That was the first one.
That was the first time on a podcast, but it's happened a lot of times before, like just in life.
Like, so is it always like you actually just pass out?
Yeah, I feel it coming on. Like I feel like queasy and like fucked up. But I mean, I get lightheaded all the time, right? Like that's pretty common. And then usually when I get lightheaded, I'm just like, oh man, I like haven't eaten enough food today or something, or like, maybe I need to drink some water or some shit. So I can never, and that happens like literally almost every day. Like
Oh, wow. Okay.
like I get lightheaded fucking all the time. So when this happens, like every couple of years, I'm like, it's very hard to tell if it's like me just being lightheaded or if it's like me about to pass out and crack my
to
head
go
open.
down,
Yeah.
down for the count from Richard's fucking story.
Yeah.
Wow, dude. That is, are you going to put that on the YouTube channel?
I released it to my patrons. So, so yeah, anyone who's subscribed to my Patreon, they're able to watch me pass out.
Well, that's a good warning because my family, my sister's a doctor, and she just has all these really crazy stories, and sometimes, and because of that, like I will internalize them and start retelling them, and it's just a good reminder that not everyone wants to hear really gnarly things.
Yeah, I
really
mean,
gruesome stuff.
I think it just depends on the person, and it depends on the day too, right? Like, I mean, I can hear fucked up stories sometimes, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not. It's
Wow.
hard to tell what day it's going to be. But
Wow.
I think that day, like we were doing the podcast at about this time, like 4 or 5 p.m. and I had woken up pretty early and I just like fasted all day. So I also like hadn't really eaten.
Oh, wow.
So I think that was part of it as well.
Do you fast often?
Yeah, every day. So, I mean, I've eaten today, but like, yeah, I usually do 16/8. So I stop eating at like 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. and then I don't start eating again the next day until about midday.
Mm-hmm. And how does that work for you and for your creative process?
I actually like it. I feel like I'm way clearer in the mornings when I'm fasted than after I eat. I find actually like after I eat, I'm like, fuck, man, I'm tired. Why do I even eat food?
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I'm the same way. Yes, I do the same thing. Although I've reduced my window just a little bit. So I've gotten over this past year, I've gotten super addicted to heavy exercise, and I was going to work out fasted, and then I was coming back and crashing really hard. But for me, the morning, like when I get up and come into the studio and I have my coffee and then I work between that time and when I have breakfast, like that's the magic window. I'm just like you. As soon as I have food, maybe I'll get something done, maybe not, but I feel like my brain is now suboptimal. But that morning caffeinated fasted state, that's the best.
Yeah, it's almost like smoking weed. Hey, like you eat a bunch of food and you're all of a sudden you're like, fuck, man.
Exactly.
That's cool.
It feels like taking a huge bong load.
Yeah, totally. I also agree. Like the morning is sort of the best time to write. But it's also the sort of time when you want to be like, where's the emails at, and like check that too. So it's almost like I think the better like series of events for a creative person is like, don't do emails in the morning at all. Just do like music shit and then do the emails at night, because it's like low effort work. It's like doesn't require a shit ton of your attention.
Exactly. That's exactly how I do it.
Yeah, I think something about like also just having come from dreamland, like your brain is still, maybe somewhat secreting DMT or something like that. So you're maybe a little bit more in the realm to make music.
Yeah. I I I will very frequently go to bed with a song or a problem that's happening on some project that I'm working on, and I'll wake up and it will be clear. It's like the fresh ears thing. Excuse me. I think fresh ears extends beyond just your actual ears, but like I'll go to sleep and I'll journal before I go to bed a lot of times about just what I'm thinking about, what I'm working on, and then it's like offline processing when I'm sleeping. Your subconscious mind is chewing through these problems and coming up with solutions. I really I really do believe in the power of sleep. I'm a way better person and certainly a better creative when I'm sleeping really well.
Yeah, I mean, it's where like all of the learning happens. It's where all muscle growth happens. It's like, yeah, sleep is like where all shit goes on. It's like the daytime is just like, yeah,
We're just
being
getting
a
through it.
yeah, exactly. It's like sleeping seems to be when all the magic happens. Speaking of which, I was reading your blog earlier, and I noticed that you do like you make posts about like favorite books you've read. And one of them was Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, which
Oh
I
yeah.
haven't read the book, but I've like heard he was on Joe Rogan and I watched that podcast. And yeah, it's by far my favorite Joe Rogan episode.
Oh
He
yeah, he's
talks about,
amazing.
yeah, he talks about so much crazy stuff. But yeah, that I should listen to the audio book of that or something.
Yeah, if you're into sleep, I definitely recommend the book. It's really long and he goes into great detail, but it completely changed my life. There's also someone that Joe Rogan had on recently called Dr. Andrew Huberman. He has a podcast that he just started, and he's a neurobiologist at Stanford, and he talks about this stuff as well. And through both of these researchers and doctors, I've been able to completely reboot my whole my entire sleep life. I think the main takeaway from Why We Sleep is that sleep affects everything that you care about, right? Just like you said, from muscle growth, memory, emotion, all sorts of physical health, where I think that we learned that sleep was something that you just kind of did just to get through, but really it affects absolutely everything. So I've gotten really nerdy about all of the sleep hygiene stuff. And I don't know, it's just like it really works. It all really pays dividends. Like it's cool too because it's something you have to do every day, and it's really easy to experiment with to see what works for you and what doesn't. I mean, one of the main things, which is it's just funny how obvious it is, but he talks about sleep consistency of like basically going to bed and waking up at the same time every night is really, really important because if you and like in tour life or when you're playing shows, your sleep is constantly moving around, but basically like your circadian rhythm is clocked to sunlight and it doesn't shift very much at a time. It can only shift like an hour at a time. So if you're going to bed, let's say at 11 p.m. every night, if one of those nights you go to bed at 3, it's not like your entire clock just moves from 3 to 11 a.m. You are now just getting less sleep. So I started using his advice and yeah, it's really paid off. But I've never been anyone that's been someone that's had a very strict routine, especially like in the music world. When you're playing shows, you can't be like, I'm gonna go to bed at 10 every single night. But except for 2020, I was like, I'm gonna go to bed at 10 every night and just like see what happens.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. 2020's been pretty good for that kind of thing for sure. Or was pretty good, but
Yeah, I guess
yeah,
still feels like 2020.
yeah, exactly. What else are you doing like to keep up with your sleep? Are you doing like melatonin or anything like that?
Yeah, so couple of really big things is that having a cold room is really important because your body has to drop a couple degrees in temperature, and that's something that I always feel like I intuitively knew, but I didn't really understand it. So focusing on a cold room, um, and then also reading a book, a paper book before bed. I have a sleep tracker thing that I use as well, and that one increased my shortwave, my deep sleep a lot. And what I think that is that if you, because you can, if let's say you go to bed at midnight and you wake up at 8 every day, but the quality of those nights is totally different depending on what you were doing before. It's not, even if you fell asleep, you can have better or worse sleep. And I found that getting deep sleep after reading a book and basically turning off my brain, turning off all of the problem solvers that are in there trying to figure everything out. Because even if I'm reading an article that's about current events, reading like catching up on the latest election news or something, then it's like my brain is still turning. That was one of the main things. And then the other one was the biggest needle mover was having time in between the last meal and bed, and certainly with alcohol, right? So it's like if I have a drink at 9:30, then I go to bed at 10, like my sleep is completely fucked. And I track all of this stuff too, versus if I have a cocktail before dinner at 6, go to bed at 10, like it doesn't really affect it too much. But alcohol in general is almost the worst culprit. It's worse than caffeine for me. So the main thing was trying to put in an absolute ideal world 3 hours between my last meal and bed, if not 2 hours minimum, and then into reading. That's helped a lot. And then I do have some supplements. I found this like melatonin magnesium CBD supplement thing that works really well.
Damn, that's like all the things.
It's all the things in one.
Yeah. Magnesium is something I was trying for a while for sleep, and that helped a bit. And I was doing the melatonin spray actually from Onnit, which is, I guess, Aubrey Marcus's company. I noticed you're on his podcast too.
Mm-hmm. Did that work for you? That was the spray?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. And since then I've like kind of stopped doing the spray, and now I just take this pill called trazodone, which is like you can just ask your doctor for it and they give it to you, and it's pretty good.
Okay. Did you have trouble sleeping before this, just in general?
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, I think most creative people are, right? Is your brain is just always like thinking about some musical thing or whatever, and it's like if you go lay down and like you're about to go to sleep and all of a sudden you're like, shit, I got an idea about one thing. I got to go like to my computer and definitely do this now because I for sure won't remember it, or you don't trust yourself to remember or something. My sleep was always horrible. Like I would go to bed at 5 a.m. one day, and then you go to bed at like 6 p.m. the next day. I'm like just random as fuck, especially during the winters. Like when I was living in Colorado up until recently, I moved to San Francisco at the start of last year.
Oh, okay.
I mean, in Colorado, the winters get like so short. The sun goes down at like, I don't know, 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's basically dark by 5, and then it doesn't come up again until like 9 a.m. So I was just like pretty much constantly living in the dark for like a couple of months a year as well for times. And but since moving here, where there's like a more consistent sun schedule than in Colorado, I found it's been a little better.
Makes a big difference too. It's always it cracks me up because I have so many of these conversations. I feel like my creative friends and community, we want to find systems and create things, and without touring and traveling, we're like everyone's sleep hacking and intermittent fasting and working out or meditating or whatever the hell. It's just like this. It's so funny to have these conversations where I think before we would have been like, what festival you're at, or talking about airplane times and like jet lag hacks, but now it's like you have to try to control your environment and make the best of it. But it's really funny how much I've been having these conversations.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's great. Everyone's like on their self-help shit at the moment, which is great.
Yes.
Do you find routine to be like very compatible with creativity, or are you more creative when you don't have any routine at all?
I love this question, and this is something that I've thought about and experimented with a lot. And so over the course of the past year, I tried the whole time blocking thing. Have you ever messed with that?
Like Pomodoro timers and stuff?
No, time blocking it comes from this book called Deep Work by Cal Newport. And basically,
I actually just listened to this.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So basic idea is that you divide up your day into these blocks.
Right.
And for him, it's interesting because he's a computer science professor. He's an engineering mind, and he's also in academia. So I think if you work in so if you're a strict knowledge worker, you can chop up your day into these little chunks of time where it's like 30 minutes I'm going to do this, and then 30 minutes I'm going to do this, and then I have going to go for a run and then have a call. So I tried this for a while, and it didn't really produce the best results. So I've had a middle ground, but the best thing from it though is scheduling the projects with the highest priority early on in the morning. But I'll like my schedule in an absolutely ideal day looks pretty free. So I'm not like 30 minutes I'm gonna build Ableton patches and then I'm going to go into sound design world. I'm just like, it has to be more open and fluid, because it's like things come up that you never would have thought about. And so I think that when I was too rigid, it would actually fuck up the whole process. So but the best part of doing the time blocking stuff was scheduling internet time. So I know that so recently I've been getting up at around 6:30. I have a meditation practice. I exercise just a little bit. I kind of like move around, get the blood going. Let's say by like 7 or 7:30, I do like 7 to 11 roughly, give or take a little bit depending on what's going on in the studio. And then I have scheduled internet and admin and email time where I can then like stop if there's things to do, but I don't schedule any calls or anything before that. And that's been really helpful for me to just feel like my creative brain, if it knows that it gets a 3-hour chunk to just do whatever the fuck it wants, that it comes up with really good ideas if it doesn't feel too constrained.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, I found the same thing. Like I can't really be like, oh yeah, I got 30 minutes to work on music here, so I'll just work on music for 30 minutes and then do a call and then like go out for lunch and then like blah blah blah. It doesn't work. Yeah, I'm the same as you. I kind of have to have just like an open day where it's just like music can happen in this time maybe. And then,
Yes.
and then like
that's it. I feel like it's like in Buddhism, they talk about like with meditation practice, it's not too tight or not too loose. Like you don't want to grasp on to the moment too hard or completely just flail. I feel it's the same thing with music. But, sometimes if we're releasing albums, if we're doing more admin stuff, I will have to go on Slack and talk to people or answer emails and fill out spreadsheets and stuff like that. But I tend to want to put that stuff all in one day, so that I'm just like you said, I'll have like more full creative blocks to focus and then do the other work stuff separately, because I think that the real enemy is context switching, right? It's like moving back and forth between all these different things. It's like social media, YouTube, music, learning a scale, back to the news, like that is no bueno. That will not produce very many good results. It's all about like doing one thing at a time.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's like a cost associated with switching, right? And if you do it a lot, it gets really expensive. Waste a lot of time, because it takes like a lot of time, I think, to get into the flow state of writing music. And then if you don't respect that you're in the flow state and you go like, I can totally check, Reddit for a minute, then like all of a sudden you're like, damn it, knocked myself out of the flow state.
I know. I'm like, oh, I'm in the flow. I'm like, oh, I might as well just see like what governments have toppled. Yeah, just like flow into Reddit, see what this guy had for breakfast. That would be really fascinating. And then then it goes away. But I totally agree with you though, that like having that fluidity of maybe music's going to happen, maybe not. I don't have to actually really do anything. That the paradox is that produces the better results than if I'm like, I have 1 hour to make a song, and it's like, well, I could write a beat in an hour, but it's not actually going to be very good or have the depth that I want if I have a whole chunk of time to really focus on it. And I'm not sure if you do this, but something I've started doing this year as well is like debriefing from each project. So let's say I'm working on a new album. I'll like just write a couple words about it, and it's not a ton, but when I'm done writing, I'll write about what works, what didn't work, to take some notes on that. And then that has really helped me keep track of the process and learn from like, wow, when I do this produces good results, and when I do that, it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't do that, but that's a good idea. What I have noticed over the past year is like I've just become like a lot more aware of like what my creative process even is. I think like I've been doing this shit for so long that you would think I would understand like how my shit works, but it like for some reason only sort of has started clicking, you know, in this last year because I guess I've had so much time to think. It's been a lot
Like
of
what
self
is
reflection.
I love this conversation, but like what have you learned about your creative process through this? Like what are the ingredients for you that really work?
I've learned that I can't be like working on more than one song at a time if I really want to finish music, because otherwise I just end up with like tons and tons of whips, and then I just never come back to them. So I have to like I have to be like, I'm gonna finish this song and then like work on that just every day until it's done. I've noticed that's the only way I get music actually finished. That was a big one. Um, Another big one is that like I feel like I do a lot better if I feel like I'm trying to impress someone whilst I'm producing. And an example of that is like streaming on Twitch, right? I'm much less liable to get distracted. This also happens if someone's in the studio and I'm collaborating with them or something. Like I'm much less liable to stop and do shit like check Reddit if somebody's watching, because I feel like I'm like trying to perform for them almost in a
Right.
way. You
You
know,
have that
like
accountability there.
yeah, exactly. So I find like streaming on Twitch has been really helpful for
Oh, that's
that.
cool.
But it almost seems a little bit like a crutch as well. It's like, you know, I shouldn't need to do this. But
Whatever
yeah.
works though. That's a good one. I mean I that's it's the same thing with English Mob. I mean I think also it's different when you're a solo artist. You know, got various collaborations, but yeah, like when we're all in the studio together and we'll do a round robin where someone's driving physically. You know, if we're all three in the same room, then yes, like I'm certainly not going to just stop and go look at the news in the middle of a live like writing something. But if I'm alone, I'll be much more prone to do that. I also find that something he talks about in Deep Work, which I do respect, is like creating a little ritual around stuff. Like Pomodoro is great, but even being like starting and stopping my day. So I'm like, okay, today I'm going to start working. I put my phone away. I ceremoniously like take my iPhone and put it in the closet. Like, okay, now it's time to get into flow where I'm like sort of telling myself that it's all going to happen. And I have a little bell that I ring. I'm like, okay, thus begins the process, instead of just like bumbling into it and seeing what happens and having some intentionality around it is is really helpful now that I don't have in-person collaborators to keep me honest.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Actually, I should probably do something more like that. Actually, I did this the other day. I put my phone in the kitchen and unplugged my internet and tried to write music for a while. And like even just from muscle memory, I would keep pressing Alt Tab just to like tab to something else, and I'd be like, oh, that's right. There's nothing to look at there. It's just like so heavily ingrained in my
Yes,
system to do this.
the Alt tab. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Do you ever use Pomodoro timers?
Yeah, I do. I got one the other day, and what I realized is I can't even do one anymore. Like my attention span is that fucked. Like I literally get like halfway into one and I'm like, oh man, this is this is tough. And the only thing that seems to fix it at the moment is streaming. But uh yeah, I should definitely practice these things more. The other thing that doesn't help is my Pomodoro timer is on my phone. So it's like my phone like also would have to be in front of me, and
Gotta get one of these.
yeah, I should definitely get one of those.
$5 on Amazon or something, but it's nice to have them like, okay, I'm turning the thing, like, okay, here we go, attention,
Hmm.
focus, and then I have it right there. And I do think that removing your phone entirely, because it's not only just about having your phone accessible, but I mean, there's been research about this, but like when your phone is in proximity to you, we have trained our brain to outsource its faculties to the phone. It's like, well, the phone's here. Well, I don't have to think about this. I can never be bored. And like boredom, I think boredom is actually a real precondition to good creativity. Just it's okay to be like, I don't know what I'm doing, because there's never a moment where you're just sitting there like, I don't know what I'm doing. What Because
Right.
it's always filled up, and I think that does help with the creative process. So for me, um, having the Pomodoro timer, and sometimes I'll be like, oh fuck, it's only been 5 minutes, and now I'm bored, so I'm gonna go try something else. But it's that mind wandering that can really produce good ideas.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree. The phone is kind of like this digital pacifier that
Yeah,
gives us constant, dopamine and hits or whatever. But I agree. I think boredom is like a healthy thing. Actually, that's a big thing I realized through quarantine as well. And I was getting into meditation actually for a bit via Sam Harris's Waking Up app, which I thought was pretty cool.
It's a great app. Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing he says is that he notices as soon as he starts meditating that he's just been hijacked by the most boring person ever. And I totally agree and have that
Yes.
exact same experience. It's like as soon as I start meditating, I'm just like, I wonder if I need to get a haircut, or like
Yeah.
just start thinking like, do I need to do a load of washing? Or like
Or I'm thirsty. There is a mug over there. I'm going to bring that mug to my mouth and then take a sip. And the fact that you're constantly narrating this stuff, you would never even really realize it until you're meditating and you're watching it. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have a pretty strict meditation routine?
Yeah. I also think that meditation is good for this stuff. I think that in my experience, meditating for 10 or 20 minutes in the morning, it trains you to be okay without your digital pacifier there. And although meditation itself, I don't think generates ideas, but it's like practice for being in a state where, constantly having this tick where you're focusing on something, and then there's this like, what's going on Reddit or whatever.
This is the actually entire reason why I wanted to start doing it, is because I was like, maybe this would be like a good thing to regain control of my attention, is like meditation.
I think it is, and I think the deeper you get into it, what will help you is it helps with self-awareness. So on really deep meditations, I'll be there and like I'll be meditating, and I know that the whole point, you say it in the beginning of a meditation, is for the next 20 minutes I don't have to do any planning. There's nothing to plan. I'm just meditating, and all of a sudden my productive mind will come online and be like, but there's that email to respond to. And then it's just watching the tick. It's almost like a nervous tick of my attention constantly wandering. So I think once I realized that, and how I had trained myself to constantly be moving away from this, and also like how important flow states are for making good music, like and making good music and having fun doing it, like that's the most important thing to me. So anything to me that's going to make me better at that, make me more productive, I am all about. And meditation, I really think helps with that. Yeah, I've been meditating every morning for a while. And when I travel and stuff, I don't always meditate. I mean, sometimes I do, but when I'm here at home, it's pretty much every day.
That's awesome. Yeah. I go through phases. I'll do it for a few weeks, and then I'll like slack on it for about a month, and then I'll like do it for a few weeks again.
Yeah,
which is funny, right? Because it is only like the ones I do are like 10-20 minutes, like pretty short. I mean, actually, like generally I find 20 minutes of meditation to be like tons, but when you think about it, it's like 20 minutes is fuck all of your day. It's like such a short amount of time.
It's such a short amount of time. I mean, 20 minutes will absolutely just disappear if you're on your phone. Be like, wow, an hour just went by. What was I even actually doing?
Yeah, exactly. But when you're like actually trying to meditate and do literally nothing, it feels like an hour and a half or something.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, even a couple minutes, even if like 5 minutes can be good, 10 minutes. But for me, I'm 20 is about my sweet spot. I've done longer ones. I've been to like meditation retreats in the desert where you like meditate,
like the 7-day thing or 10-day thing or whatever.
10-day retreats. And that was good to get my meditation muscles really primed and strong. I mean, you certainly don't need to do that to get the benefit of it. I mean, I think it's good for all sorts of things, but specifically for creative people. And if your creativity is on a computer, I think you have even an extra challenge, because if your instrument is the guitar, you have to set the guitar down and like go over to your computer and open up Reddit. It's a lot harder if you're practicing guitar, but for us, it's like the computer is the instrument. I have push here. I have my computer. Oh, then I also just have like every entertaining thing ever is also here. So you have to have stronger attention control and awareness to be able to not get sucked into that hole every time, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's like being a TV repairman in the 70s or something. It's like all of a sudden you're just watching the TV. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm not even
exactly.
repairing this thing anymore.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, I haven't tried unplugging the internet, but I do have
Do you have cold turkey or whatever it's called?
yeah, I have one of those like a Chrome plugin. For me, getting rid of the phone is easy. It's more like, yeah, if I'm opening my email or it's just seeing what's it's like I have to close Twitter. Twitter's the one that usually gets me.
Yeah, Twitter is pretty engaging because it's like just short little bites of information. It's like there's no work that needs to be done to ingest like a tweet, right? There's a shitload of work that goes into, say, ingesting a book. But, you know, trying to just ingest one sentence of stuff it's very satisfying and easy and everyone can do it. It's like looking
Appetizers.
yeah, it's like a text message or something. I actually thought about, actually my girlfriend thought of this, that it would be a good way to feed someone a book is like just in tweets.
Just one tweet at a time, one sentence at a time.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if, you know, you
Oh, that would be great. I mean, especially if you could get people to read without them actually knowing it, just by tweeting the entire thing.
yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh shit, I just read Why We Sleep.
Why we, I wonder how long that would take. I have to do a study on that. I mean, so I think the book was like 19 hours on Audible or something.
Holy shit.
And I was doing a lot of driving from LA to San Francisco. My family lives up there, so it was really easy. It was just like a couple long drives. But in tweets, I wonder how long that would actually take. Have you seen this? There's a software piece of software. I forgot what it's called, but you basically like you stare at it and then it runs through the text. And because like a lot of the time that you spend reading is actually scanning left to right, moving like this. And there's actually something that will actually basically just like blast through text where you don't have to move your eyes at all. You just stare, and you can actually read like that, but it doesn't really. It's not deep. It doesn't really go into the deep recesses of my mind. I feel like speed reading is all kind of it's a little bit of a ruse.
Yeah, have you done this thing where you like shut one eyelid and put your finger on it and then like read a book and notice like when you get to the end of every line and then go back to the start of the next line, you can feel your eyeball like jolt? So this is something I like read in a Tim Ferriss article, and he's like what is it? It's called like a saccadic movement or some, I don't know what it's called, a saccadic stop or whatever. Basically it's like this thing where like you get to the end of a line, your eyeball like physically like stops and then like has to reset and then start again, and it actually takes like a quarter of a second to do that.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it's like every line it's costing you like a bit of time,
Right.
and that adds up if you're reading a big ass book, you know. So
really adds up. Yeah. Do you read typically in paper books, or do you read like Kindle ebook?
I particularly mostly listen to audiobooks and podcasts. Yeah, I feel like the activity of like reading for me, it just seems like very draining.
Yeah.
And listening to audiobooks, I kind of like just having an audiobook in my AirPods and like walking around the house doing work or something, you know, like cleaning or some shit.
Okay, so for you, I'm so fascinated by this because I just don't know when people actually listen to podcasts without travel. Because for me, I was always listening to so many audiobooks and podcasting when we were always in and out of airports. So for you, it's when you're doing chores around the house.
It's either when I'm driving, because I still drive like a little bit, you know, like I went mountain biking today, so I had to drive there, and so it's when I'm, you know, driving to do that kind of stuff. But also, yeah, mostly when I'm like doing shit around the house, and you know, sometimes when I don't want to write music and also don't want to be sitting at my computer, I'll just sort of like walk around the house and listen to shit as well.
That's a good idea. I'm gonna have to try the Mr. Bill House audiobook wander.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, I every now and then have to like brush my cat, and that takes a while. So I usually listen to a podcast while I'm doing that. And like
That's good. Sometimes I'll do it when I'm cooking or if I'm doing a lot of.
yeah, that's a great time to do it for sure. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like when you're just doing kind of semi-mind, like cooking's not so mindless, but you know, like shit that you can kind of do on autopilot.
Yes.
It's a lot more boring to do it if you're not listening to an audiobook.
Right.
And it feels like a bit of a drag. But if you're also listening to an audiobook, it's like you're getting enough shit input into your system that you're like, this is fine.
Yes, totally. I also feel like there are certain types of books that lend themselves to be consumed in that way. It was like Why We Sleep. It was so dense with information that I didn't have to pay attention to everything. I'm listening to this book right now. I'm doing a drive in the next week or two, but this book, The Immortality Key, which is incredible. It's so dense though that I can't really skip anything. So I tried to listen. I'm sitting here like cutting carrots, listening to him talk about the Eleusinian mysteries and how psychedelics influenced culture through ancient Greece. And I would like move to like cut up a carrot. Sort of like my attention would stray from it for 30 seconds and I would come back in and I was completely lost. So I find that like if there's too much information or it's too dense, I can't actually follow along.
That happens to me a lot, actually. Like there'll be times where something will happen that I'm doing where I'll like my attention will be diverted and I clearly am not listening to the book, and then I'll come back in, like my attention will come back into the book and I'll be like, what the fuck's going on? But I just like don't let that stop me. Like I'll just keep listening and eventually it'll make sense. I'll be like, oh yeah, like I get the point. Because a lot of authors, they kind of like really beat a point home, you know, like they'll sort of introduce an idea. Then they'll be like, and then here's an example of the same idea. And then they'll be like, but then check out this example of that idea also. Again. And then it's like, and also this guy did a study and like blah, blah, blah. And it's just
over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, if you miss one of them, it's like, you'll get the next one.
That's how it is with a lot of those books. Yeah. Why We Sleep. I think you probably got most of what you need from probably listening to the podcast, unless you want to really nerd out on all the little details.
Yeah, I felt that way. I kind of felt like the podcast was pretty comprehensive. It's like 3 hours. I mean, Joe Rogan doesn't fuck around with these podcasts.
No, they're like 3 hours each. Oh, it's crazy. They're really long.
Yeah, it's also crazy to me that he does like 3 a day or something. You know, it's like some days he'll do 3, which is just like 9 hours of talking. And then I mean, he also like, I mean, I guess he's just a professional talker, really, isn't he? Like,
yeah,
he does that plus MMA commentary plus comedian stuff.
He just sits around and talks and makes jokes, and he's made a whole career out of doing that, and he's one of the best.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I see in your favorite books of 2019, one of them is Conscious by Annika Harris. That's one that I've got on my list to listen to pretty soon as well.
Oh, that's such a good one. I love reading about consciousness and philosophy of mind, and that's one of the best ones, I think, especially as an intro, because some of them can get really dense. The like pop neuroscience books, or like I was reading recently started Superintelligence, which is about AI by Nick Bostrom, and like it's extremely dense. But this and the Annika Harris book, she boils a lot of the concepts down so much that it's really fun to read. I love books like that. There's another one, an author named Carlo Rovelli, who boils down physics and all sorts of strange quantum physics terminology and concepts. So it's almost like poetry. It's really cool. And her book is very similar to that. It's a great one.
Yeah, I kind of figured it would be like that, because she also has like some like meditation for children apps and stuff like that. But yeah, I really find consciousness to be a pretty interesting subject, because I mean, like, there's no answer for it. We have no fucking idea what it is, but it's like kind of cool to listen to really smart people like dabble in their theories about it at least.
Yes, and just talk about it. Yeah, exactly, because that's the fun part about reading about this stuff at the intersection of consciousness and philosophy and creativity, is that it's very clear, especially when it comes to consciousness, that no one really has any idea why this stuff happens. There's all these theories, and she talks a lot about panpsychism in that book. Then that's like the concept that consciousness doesn't just emerge from our brains, but it's actually more of like it emerges from matter in general, and consciousness is everywhere. And it's more of, it's something that we think that it feels like it's special to be a human, because we have this particular type of consciousness that animals have a different flavor of it. But panpsychism says that consciousness is pretty much everywhere and it emerges in different ways depending on the quality of matter. And I think a lot of these things are like thought experiments to jostle the way that we experience life. But once you start reading about panpsychism, there's more and more serious scientists that talk about the fact that matter has consciousness in it somehow, and then it just emerges depending on how you put all of the molecules together.
Yeah, right. Crazy. Yeah, I really need to listen to this. I really love Sam's stuff, and I assume like her and Sam share a lot of the same ideas as they're probably chatting about shit every day.
Oh yes, yeah, she has a very scientific mind, and yeah, I bought her her children's meditation, or she has a book for children, that's basically like a children's mindfulness book. I bought that for my niece for Christmas. It's really great, but I love anything that's at the intersection of like questioning reality, meaning of life, philosophy, all of the stuff. And the deeper you go, the more you realize that no one really has any idea what's going on. So
Yeah, totally.
just like have fun with it.
Yeah, I saw in I'm looking just through all of your favorite books now, seeing what else you're reading. I saw you read some Sam Harris in 2015. Have you read his book Free Will?
Yes.
What did you think of that one?
Um, when I first read it, it completely fucked me up. I was like, wow, it rebooted the way that I felt as a human moving through the world. And I've actually reread it a couple of times. It's a really good audiobook too. And the more I've heard him having conversations with people and had more conversations on my own, I think it has lost its sting, because when I first heard it, I was like, I just couldn't really wrap my head around it. And with the idea that we don't have free will, that can be really frightening to some people. And he talks about how people like write into his show and they're like, "You ruined my life." When I realized that I didn't actually have free will, it just life starts to feel strange when there's this sort of philosophical proof that we're all in a video game, and you might not be the author of this video game or really choosing where it all goes.
Yeah, I mean, but the arguments he makes, I think, are just so strong
Yes.
that it's really hard to be like, no, you're wrong, and I definitely have free will. It's like it's almost, I don't know, it feels almost irrefutable.
Yeah, I think it's a fun piece of, it's like a philosophical party trick, because once you go down that rabbit hole, I'm like, I'm not sure that it completely changed the way that I live my life, but it is something that when you really go look at it, and I've tried to find other philosophers that argue against what he says, and there's all sorts of different people who don't necessarily agree with what he's saying, but yeah, it's that book, I think, it's a total head fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the underlying principle of it is that if you could rewind your brain to the state that it was in like a few seconds ago, with every synapse exactly like where it was about to fire again in the exact same way that they just did, would you have like used the word head fuck there again? And it's like
Right.
the yeah, I guess like we all feel like yes, we could have. But then there's also the people who argue that like there's randomness, but then also randomness isn't free will. It's just you're basically being rolled a dice every couple of seconds. Something
Yes.
like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Like if why did I just decide to reach over and grab that water? Well, it's like, well, because I felt thirsty, but who told me that I was thirsty? I didn't choose to feel thirsty.
right. And there's like so many things that are loaded into your system already that like made that glass even be full of water and not rum or something.
Yes. How do you know it's not vodka though?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I wanted to ask as well about like we sort of started going into glitch mob stuff earlier, but I just wanted to ask like what the process is like for writing with those guys, and what is it like now? Are you guys actually meeting up for sessions, or are you like all sort of separated and podding in your own sort of groups? Or?
Yeah. So we had a studio in Highland Park in Los Angeles for a couple years that we moved out of during the pandemic in the beginning of April 2020, I think. And we typically, I mean, all of our music had been written in person. All the albums, we would start sketches and we would bring sketches to the studio. So we wouldn't start from a blank slate, but we would all kind of go off, explore some territory. Everything is, we save everything on Dropbox, and like all of the Ableton sessions are all there. So you can like go in and pull someone else's drums out if you like them. So it's very like open source within Glitch Mob. And we write a ton of sketches, bring them together, and then pick the ones that we like little bits about. I think for our last album, for See With That Eyes, we had like 25 sketches or so, and then we can kind of like thread an album through choosing all the best bits of from those sketches. And now we've just started writing another album. But because we're not in person, it's a totally different process, and we're really just figuring it out right now. All of our, I mean, when we wrote Love, Death, Immortality, the second record, we moved out to Joshua Tree for a month, and we were out there writing music every day and hanging out and just fucking around in the desert and having fun. And so it was really like an expression of that. And we knew we were going to go tour. So there was this like feedback loop with writing an album, going to build a live show, go tour, go back to the studio, that whole loop, which is off now. And I do think that it's going to take us a little while to figure out where this will go, because we don't have that. But I think that uncertainty can make really good music, right? Because it's like we are now forced to do something totally different. So we're starting a process right now where we're doing the same thing, where we're all off writing sketches, and then we will all come together, probably not in person, probably like, on a FaceTime or something, and just talk about them, listen to them, choose favorite bits. But we're leaning into the strangeness of the whole experience, but I'm really looking forward to getting back together in person, because there is something magical about an in-person collaboration that you really can't capture. It's just a different thing remotely. But there are some people that can write music remotely and have it be amazing. And I've worked on lots of remixes and collaborations with people we never met in person. But for us, it's taking like a reboot of the whole creative process, like how you were talking about, your creative process. Like Glitch Mob as an individual, we go through, it typically takes us about a year to write a full album, obviously less for an EP. So right now we're just seeing how this is all going to happen. But the feeling is generally that because the live music world is gone, that this is going to be really good time for creativity in general for everyone. I think that with all this uncertainty, we have a chance to say something new and different. And I always think about, David Byrne talks about this in his book, How Music Works, but how music is in relationship to the venue in which it's performed, where it's like you can listen to music that's meant to be played at a festival, at an EDM festival, and like you can hear it in there, like just the way the reverb sounds, you can the way the patches are mixed, the drums are mixed, like it has that sound. Or David Byrne talks about how when he was early on writing punk rock, and how like you could hear the grit of the punk rock speakers in the music. And like this doesn't exist in a vacuum, like we think about about how people are going to listen to this, whether they're dancing to it or whether they're just listening in headphones. And because that's not here right now, we don't have that feedback loop. It's like we have this big creative element that we've been writing with, and now it's totally gone. So I think the next album is going to be totally different than anything we've done before.
Yeah, I've talked about this a little on the podcast as well. It's like the idea that having shows on the weekend is sort of like this inbuilt deadline for having music that needs to be finished or playable or whatever for the weekend. That's another thing that I learned a lot about my process with during this is that I work really well to deadlines. Like if I know something has to be done by X date, it's kind of like the I don't know, it's like some phenomena thing where it's like however much money or however many resources get assigned to a thing is like how much resources that thing will take, right? It's kind of like if you give a city planner $1.2 million to make a bridge, they're going to make a $1.2 million bridge.
Yeah, exactly.
Not,
or it's like Parkinson's law, right?
Yeah, like if you give them $500,000 to make a bridge, they're gonna just make a $500,000 bridge. It's like it's like with music. If you assign me an infinite amount of time to make an album, I'll take an infinite amount of time to make an album. But if you assign me until this Friday to have something playable, then I'll have something playable
You'll
by
do it.
Friday.
Yes,
Um,
yes. Parkinson's law says that the work will take up the amount of allotted time, no matter how long that is. And I think that I've been thinking about that a lot as well. That deadlines are they're like miracle grow for the process. If you don't have a deadline, it can actually be really bad for you. And if you don't have any reason to create one, if you're an independent artist and you're releasing your own music on your own schedule, I think having deadlines or accountability with someone else or just something can really help speed up the process and helps with follow through. And I mean, a lot of people, you're talking about like working on Twitch. There's a lot of people who like on Twitter are posting these beat videos where there's just some kind of like the count posts these crazy like minute long beat loops. He's amazing. Having some kind of public accountability and deadlines is super important. And I make deadlines for myself, and I have other people help me keep accountable to them and put them on the calendar so that it just doesn't go away and disappear. Because if they're not actually prioritized, then yeah, it won't really get done.
yeah, it's easy if you don't have a deadline with music to like treat it as a low priority thing too, right? Because it just feels like uh, by answering that email or by like paying that amount of money to that thing so that starts happening or whatever feels so much more important sometimes
Yes.
than writing a piece of music, because you're like, well, it can happen whenever and who gives a shit, it's just music. It's not like it's not like I have to give the money to that guy or whatever. Or
Yeah.
some shit like that. um when I mean, it really should be the other way around, right? It should be like this music thing is like the most important thing, and the money to the guy thing, fuck that. That can happen whenever.
That's exactly, yeah. Like I think music is it's the lead domino for everything else. Or it's like I think same thing for like photographers and writers who are actually just doing the thing. And if in War of Art he calls that the resistance. Like there's this gravitational force that wants you to not do the thing that you're actually meant to do, and it can show up as paying the guy or looking at the price of fucking Dogecoin or Bitcoin or whatever. Like whatever that sticky thing is, it's really easy to get caught in those rabbit holes.
Yeah, the War of Art is great. I really enjoyed that book. I like that. Yeah, he talks a lot about yeah, I just like the fact that he talks about art as like this aggressive thing that you're having to fight against all the time.
Yeah.
The main point I took away from that book was that if you just like show up every day, you're bound to hit something at some point. It's kind of like I almost think about my creative process as like this shotgun approach. It's like if I just throw every idea at the wall, like one of them I'll like one of them, like
Yeah.
and it's sort of the same with on a macro level to actually just making music in general. It's like if you show up every single day, it's like you're bound to make something good on one of those days because you've just shown up so many times.
Yes, and that's what he talks about as the difference between the amateur and the professional. Is the amateur overthinks everything and it has to be perfect, and you get caught in perfectionism. But really, the professional just knows that you show up and you do the same thing, rinse and repeat your routine every day, and eventually something will hit. And yeah, I mean he talks a lot about the idea of and resistance is the thing that wants to keep you from doing that, and it can show up in the form of um, distractions or other projects. And it's funny too because like that metaphor for me has really helped too. It just goes back to what we're talking about with like getting to work first thing in the morning and knowing that this is my first priority, and really like and being really clear about the fact that being in flow with music is the most important thing, and everything else I really care about comes from there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a great way to look at it. I should definitely look at that more that way. I feel like just because 2020's had no deadlines and there's not a good way of making deadlines, that yeah, my process has slowed down a lot than it has in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I also like most of my music projects are with collaborations. So like with Superposition, with my ambient project, Matt and I have a shared calendar, and we put deadlines. Okay, we're starting this. We're working on a bunch of different collaborations right now, and we're working on 4 different ones. So we start one, and we basically put in a deadline in the calendar that's kind of like 2 weeks from today. This thing will be wrapped, or whatever that is, depending on that type of project. And that's been really helpful. So when I look at my calendar for the week, like if I'm actually measuring the progress, I will get it done.
Right. Yeah. And it almost becomes like writing an essay for school or some shit. It's like if you get to the night before and you're like, fuck, it's not done, like you'll just cram and get it done, sort of
You
thing.
just you still get sent. And I think that in those last minutes, and the reason why when pressure comes up, and sometimes you do really good work there, like um earlier this year, Matt and I keep saying, we're both saying this year as if it's 2020. It's so funny, it feels like the same thing. But
Yeah.
Matt and we took Drink the Sea, Glitch Mob's record, and we did an ambient like cover version of it, where we like, or a remix where we just like took the album and redid it without a lot of drums, and made a whole new world out of it. And we gave ourselves a very hard deadline because we had to finish it and then move on to other stuff. And then the last week, it took us about a month to write that album, but the last week we were like, just, you know what, this patch is good enough. This thing, it gets the job done, instead of having the time to overthink things so profoundly. That I think that when you have to make these decisions and you only have a little bit of time, it doesn't allow the perfectionist ego to come in and be like, well, before I go down this path, I'm going to try every other patch, and then decides like, I'm going through some, oh, this sounds good. Cool. We're just going that way. And I look back and I think I'm really happy with, with the way it came out.
Yeah, I used to be this way a lot when I would send whips to people. You know, like I would be super excited about this piece of music that I was writing, and I would send a message to a buddy, be like, "Oh man, I'm writing something really sick right now. I'm like super stoked on it." And they'd be like, "Oh cool, like send me a render. I'm keen to hear it." And I'd be like, "Oh shit, I gotta like get this like to some form of playable state that's like even a minute and a half long or whatever it is." So then I would like really quickly, in the span of like 10 or 15 minutes, just like, you know, put some ambience in a like intro thing and like just throw a bunch of crap together and be like, all right, that's good, and like then send it to them. And yeah, I would find like quite often in those times when I would be just like cramming super hard to get a render out for just a random friend or something like that, whose opinion I respected on mixdowns or something, I would like quite often write the intro for a song in like 10
And it's
minutes that way.
probably great too. It's like when you haven't cleaned up your house in a while, then all of a sudden you're having guests come over and you have an hour and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna go and like remove all the towels and random shit. But it's like, it actually works. I'm like, oh, the house looks great. Why don't I just do this all the time? But I think that we are communally organized creatures. Like we work in these networks of tribes of people, and like mocking this up technologically, there's also something about when you share a song, and I know exactly what you're talking about too, that like 15-minute window of, it's going to bang out an intro, throw a limiter on it, do a quick mix,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
just like tighten everything up. But when you're really under pressure like that, you're forced to make quick decisions and rely more on your intuition. And when you can't actually technically overthink things, I think that's a good process. I mean, I've been doing these like against the clock challenge things just in my own studio. So sometimes in the morning I'll set a clock for like 3 hours, and at the end of the 3 hours, this is something that we've been working on for the Glitch Mob record, that edit sent over this text of all, he has all these cool tricks that he uses for getting, he calls it like sharpening his sword, but he was like, try this against the clock thing. So it's like 3 hours, and then at the end of the 3 hours you have to have something that is 80% done. It doesn't have to be a completely fully fleshed out thing, but it's like it should be an idea that you could play for someone, send them a file, and they would get the picture of what it really is. And that's been a fun process, to not just get hung up on all the details.
Yeah, that's awesome. Dylan Ill Gates has a similar thing. It's called timers and recipes, and he'll take a fitness workout timer thing, and there'll be like 5 minute intervals or whatever, and he'll be like, all right, I'm gonna assign 5 minutes to just like picking out samples that I want to use, and then 5 minutes just to making a beat, and then 5 minutes to like coming up with some sort of melody slash bassline idea, and then 5 minutes for doing like some edits and tweaking, and then 5 minutes for a mix down and rendering. And then like in 30 minutes or something, you can just like bang a quick idea out that way. And you can do it like multiple times in a day. You could do like 6 or 7 of those in a day, and then all of a sudden you got 6 or 7 like random little sketches
Right.
there.
That's cool. I'll have to try that. I haven't done that one before.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool idea. I've tried it a few times and I got some like okay results out of it. But also I'm like one of those people where I think my music, like the value of my music is just right down in the details mostly, which
Right.
is maybe to say that like the songwriting is weak or something. But yeah, I feel like a lot of the like editing and just the shit that does take a ton of
Yeah.
time is like where a lot of the value is. So
Right. And the texture. Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with Glitch Mob. I mean, if you were to go back and listen to our sketches for our last album, and like they're okay. Wouldn't be like wow, but the difference between 90 and 100% is huge. Like that's when we
Right.
really go into all of the like the subtle mixing stuff, the headphone trickery, like imaging. All of that is really where the song comes alive, because that's where the personality comes out. Like we're really the exact same way.
It's funny how a lot of people say like, "Oh, this is 95% done," but it's like that last 5% takes like months. It's like if that last 5% takes months and the first 95% took like a few weeks, is that last 5% really the 95%? And like,
No. No,
yeah,
it's a fractal. When you look at it, it actually just expands to another 95%. So
yeah,
that
yeah,
first
exactly.
95% was really just 30%.
Yeah, totally. Shit, yeah, man. Well, man, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. It was a great
Yeah.
chat. I really like the way you look at things. It's cool that you're like really into the like spiritual side of things, but also like, really attuned to to sort of the, logic of how the world works and stuff as well. I
Thanks for
guess
having me.
some people who are just I feel like go way too far down that spiritual path, just sort of like lose track of what shit actually is.
Lose lose track with reality. Yeah, I think for me, spirituality is just asking questions about the way things are, and none of them really have answers, and that's kind of the fun part. But yeah, thanks for
Right.
having me. It's been fun to be able to nerd out in detail, because I've done a lot of podcasts recently and don't really get to go full into all of the like Ableton details, and really have to like keep it high level. So yeah, it's been good to really dive in.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Thanks again.